Sick Harrison Price for Wednesday, November 5th, 2025. Presentation of Bet365. We're coming to you from the Pacific Toyota Dealer Studio here at the historic Wall Center. Visit shoptoyota.ca or visit your local Pacific Toyota dealer. Matt Sick Harrison alongside Blake Price, four-time Juno Award winner Mike Rogers, and hitting switches and conducting things. Big show coming up for you. As the Vancouver Canucks return home off that winning road trip to face the pride of North Vancouver, the first overall draft pick, Connor Bedard and his Chicago Blackhawks.
They do indeed, and it is not the patsy that it once was. They don't have a winning record. They don't have a losing record. They're much like the Vancouver Canucks, 5-5-3. They've taken points from 4 of their 7 road games so far. The Canucks are going to have to mind their P's and Q's here versus a Blackhawks team that has been far more competitive this season.
Yeah, and Bedard kicking in to gear this year. Look, he was a smaller statured first overall pick, puck wizard, shooting wizard, but needless to say, not physically mature at the NHL level when he debuted a couple of years ago. Still managed 61 points in 68 games. It was 67 and 82 last year. He is more than a point-per-game player this season at 16 points, 6 goals in 13 games, playing more than 21 minutes a night. You're right about Chicago.
Getting some goaltending, too.
Yeah.
Spencer Knight's been good.
And, of course, Spencer Knight was a very good goaltending prospect before he had some personal troubles and lost out to Sergei Bobrovsky in Florida. You say Chicago, at 500 better? Like the whole damn league is at 500.
That's true. The entirety of the Eastern Conference. This is Gary's dream.
I was thinking about this yesterday. So let's say this is a year where there are no great teams.
Mm-hmm.
Does the night in, night out competitiveness and proximity, of every club to another club in terms of level, does that make up for not having maybe a can't-miss team, a team that's just so good you want to watch them play hockey?
I think anything in moderation is fine. If it's a one-off season where it's sort of a grab bag and anybody can win, I think that's good. But I think you can also make the argument that having a big, bad team to chase that you're scared of, that one win and 4 chances in the regular season feels like you've won the Stanley Cup, I think that's good too. So I just don't think you want to be pinned down and you want fans to not know what's coming next. And I think you have that this season. I don't think you want this every single year. It's nice to have a juggernaut. But, yeah, let's see how it goes this year at the very least. And I also think we have to draw the distinction here. There could be a bunch of teams in this category that are waiting for the playoffs. That are trying some things, seeking chemistry and depth on different lines. They're not putting forth the lineup that they would game 1, round 1 of the NHL playoffs. And I put teams like the Oilers into that boat, the Leafs and Panthers, and, all those teams expect to be in the playoffs and know they're being held accountable by their fan base to be amazing in the playoffs. And they're not that they're not trying. That's not the assertion. It's just they're working on some things so that they are ready for the playoffs. It's a little bit different.
Yeah, I should say 3 teams playing better than 700 hockey, though. 4 teams: Vegas, Anaheim, Colorado, who loses games but only after getting a point.
Yeah,
and the Montreal Canadiens. Let's get into the Redwoods Golf Course poll question. This one's a little bit with a wink and a smirk. Will Connor Bedard come home and be a Vancouver Canuck one day? You can vote yes, you can vote no. I imagine it's wishful. Do so at the Sick Harrison Price X and YouTube channels, although there was a report this week that maybe Bedard wouldn't look to sign the max extension. It will be a 7-year max extension going forward with this CBA, not 8. Signed for something closer than 5 years, maybe hoping to walk himself into free agency and have his pick of the litter. Are you buying any of this, Mr. Price?
I am.
You are?
I am. And I don't think in this case it is blind faith and pure wishful thinking. I think there are a couple of caveats, and I think this. I'm going to say this the next time the Sharks come to town and we ask the same question of Max Celebrini. These two players, and I'll put Bedard in the marquee today. Like, they're not just from Vancouver, Matt.
They're lifelong Canucks fans.
They are Canucks fans through and through. Like, spotted at Canucks games right up to draft day.
Yep.
Like, they knew that they would have to end their Canuck fandom once they became the property of another team. But right up until their draft day, they were declaring their love for the Vancouver Canucks. So it is different than merely a Vancouverite that happens to be in the NHL. So I'm going to say yes for Connor Bedard.
I think Macklin might be a little bit more likely than Bedard just because Macklin was around Rogers Arena as an itty-bitty.
Yep.
With his dad serving as the Canucks chief of...
But as a center, the world will more be his oyster than Bedard?
Well, I mean, Bedard's a center too.
Yeah. Less a surefire center. But
and, of course, they were both itty-bitties when the Canucks lost in 2011. Here's what I'll say. If they get to free agency or get to a point, perhaps like Quinn Hughes will get to, where it's clear he'll be moving on and you've got to make a trade. If this market is still without a Stanley Cup, Blake, I would have to think that there is massive appeal with both of them about being part of the group that brings the first Stanley Cup championship to the Vancouver Canucks.
Can you imagine? Yeah. Yeah. It's
like that is a presentation. That is a carrot to dangle that I'm not sure any other market could match. Now, we'll see what the team looks like at the time, right? Like that is a big part of this. Certainly with what Connor Bedard and what Macklin Celebrini are going through, if they get to free agency or they get to next at a time where the Canucks look like they are a multi-year build away from being a cup champion, well, then forget about it. Like these guys aren't going to spend a good part of their career rebuilding in San Jose, Chicago, only to jump to the hometown team to do the same. You're going to have to be at a certain level of competitiveness that you can see Stanley Cup contention, if not the cup itself, within a 2-3 year window max?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest hurdle is convincing the incumbent teams, if you're either player, in this case Bedard, to sign that contract that walks you to free agency. Like, no team wants to do that. You know, they know they're on the clock the minute they sign ink to paper. And as we've seen with the Canucks and Quinn Hughes, with 2 years left remaining, there's angst. So, you know, if they sign a 5-year extension for Connor Bedard, they've got 2 to 3 year window before their angst begins. It's going to be really tough to imagine those negotiations going the way of a Canuck fan base.
Yeah. Because
ultimately the NHL team will just keep shoveling money at the player where they, their advisors, their agents are going to be like, you can't say no to this guaranteed money.
Mm-hmm. I know there's a Vander Kane on the team now, and you and I are old enough to remember Dan Hamhuis in free agency wanting to come home to BC here and leaving some money on the table after he departed the Nashville Predators. The Canucks don't have a particularly big history, though, in bringing players from this community, especially the best players from this community,
yes,
home.
No, No.
Like whether it was Sakic, whether it was Korea.
They booted Cam Neely.
I mean, yeah. Milan Lucic had a huge offer here to join the Canucks. He chose Edmonton instead. Glenn Anderson at one point, great Oiler, right? Didn't come home.
Reinhart was from here. He eventually repatriated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They made a trade for Brendan Morrison, who stayed, but I mean, it's not like it's the Leafs where every guy from the GTA who hits a certain point of his career
is on the rumor mill to come back.
Or does, in fact, go back and play for the Leafs.
Honestly, the one that almost fits the best is Trevor Linden coming back, because Trevor Linden is not from here, but boy, did he, become a Vancouverite in his first stint, to the point where that when he returned, it felt like it was a Vancouverite coming home.
Yeah. Jamie Benn over from Victoria.
Yeah.
And career. Ray, for God's sakes,
He said that he was interested in it. He would have liked to, but.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Ronning's from here and, of course, played here and Court and all. But, yeah, it is not a long, long history of Vancouver guys or even BC guys coming here, let alone coming here in the prime of their careers by choice in free agency.
Yeah.
Shea Weber once upon a time. They were hoping to get Shea Weber, right? All right. So you can vote at the Sekerson Price X and YouTube channels. Our friends at the Redwoods Golf Course specialize in custom corporate events. If you're looking for a venue, let me tell you about Redwoods, where you can build in golf lessons or at least some time at their beautiful golf range as part of your event. It's heated, it's covered, stands up to the elements here. You can do some work with their PGA of Canada teaching professional Craig. There's a food and beverage component. And if you got a child 6 to 16 looking to set them up for the sport of a lifetime, private, semi-private, junior lessons available, flexible to your schedule. Check it out, redwoods-golf.com. Our top story brought to you by Yellow Dog Brewing, Neighborhood Brewing, Foolish Winery. Garley's back. Canucks leading scorer returns to the lineup tonight as the team is getting healthier after weathering that early injury storm. Conor Garland practicing in his spot on power play 1 on the half wall this morning. That was the indication that he is ready to return. He's missed the last 3 games, the entirety of that 2-1 road trip, and yet he still leads the team with 11 points and 8 assists. Blake, let's hear from the captain, Quinn Hughes. He's excited to get one of his playmates back tonight.
Yeah, I know he's excited to play, and we obviously need him. So, it's good timing for him to come back. We're lucky he was only missed 3 and it wasn't that serious.
We obviously need him. Yes.
Good point per game guy.
Yeah, goals. Need some goals. Now, we're expecting Mackenzie McEachern to depart the lineup, but assistant coach Brett McLean, standing in for head coach Adam Foote at this morning's press availability, wouldn't confirm. He said they're still working through the lineup, and that's why no line rushes this morning. Did Mackenzie McEachern earn himself another game here, Blake? Are they sitting down someone like Arshdeep?
I mean, I wouldn't do that myself. Like, if you had a team that had legitimately a couple of scoring lines that were going, and you just wanted a veteran presence in your bottom 6, sure. But the problem with doing that with a team like this, for like the Vancouver Canucks currently are constructed, is you don't have a lot of offense anywhere in this lineup. And you are far more likely to get a surprise bit of offense from the AHL guys, the Abbey guys, than you are from Mackenzie McEachern, who's a current Abbey guy, for lack of a better description.
Had an assist, but yeah.
But, I think you've got to play the odds. The other guys are more likely to contribute. I don't think. But, the coaches latch on to something they see in a game and they go, I want more of that, please. And it wouldn't surprise me.
Canucks, of course, played without 8 regulars earlier this season. That was down to 7 on Monday night as they got Quinn Hughes, their captain, back for what turned out to be an overtime victory in Nashville. It appears that list will whittle even further come Saturday, and that is because Teddy Blueger skated before the group this morning. Of course, head coach Adam Foote had already foreshadowed returns for Garland and Blueger in that order with comments earlier this week. The Canucks face the Blackhawks tonight and the Blue Jackets on Saturday. Vancouver was 3-0 versus Chicago last year. They did not bleed a point to either Chicago or San Jose. They were 7-2 last season against the West's three worst teams, Sharks, Blackhawks, Predators. So got to keep taking advantage of these weaker sides, although as Blake notes, Chicago 5-5-3 and +1 goal differential this season. And that's because, well, while 7-7 is decent given the injury situation and decent given that you've played a majority of road games, of course it prorates to an 82-point season, and that is not going to be good enough to make the playoffs in the Western Conference. And then there's what Blake has been talking about all week, that schedule, which gets a heck of a lot tougher after Saturday. They're right back at it Sunday at Rogers Arena against the Colorado Avalanche. Best team in the NHL right now. But again, a lot of loser points there. Then Winnipeg coming to town to complete this 4-game homestand, and then they are off on a roadie. Boy, I don't remember such a short roadie down to Florida. But it's Carolina, Tampa, and Florida, needless to say. Three of the better teams over the last few years in the East, including the two-time defending reigning Stanley Cup champion Panthers, although minus Barkov and Tkachuk.
Yeah, they're hoping that they remain as battered up as they are currently, and they should be, at least those two star players. But you got to bank points when you can, and that's not taken away from what Chicago and Columbus are, which are, I think, mildly better teams than they were a year ago. But you've got to go and get those wins. Similar to the road trip they just had, where it was good for them to get to two. I think they had the chance to sweep it, theoretically. But you've got to take care of business. A split is not even really that acceptable in this case, because you don't know what's going to happen versus Colorado and Winnipeg. So get your 4 points here and then try to seek out a split in the back half of the homestand. Seek out a split between Colorado and Winnipeg. That should be the goal of this team. But it all starts with the first win, and they've got to put one over on Chicago, who don't feel too bad about themselves these days. I think they think that they're headed in the right direction right now. Some
of those young players are growing up before your eyes, playing in more forward roles for the Blackhawks. Chicago is the fourth opponent that the Canucks are seeing for a second time already in this young season. They lost their their first road game of the year in Edmonton, came back to beat the Oilers at Rogers Arena. They, of course, lost on home ice Thanksgiving Monday to St. Louis, came back to beat St. Louis in a shootout in St. Louis last week. They lost that first game in Nashville 13 days ago, came back to beat the Predators on Monday night in a shootout, and, of course, they beat the Chicago Blackhawks in a shootout 3-2 at the United Center on October 17th. Here's assistant coach Brett McLean on. So first of all, this is his second answer about sort of the state of the team right now. His first answer, he talked about, we're in every game. We're in every game. And, yep, that's fair. The Pittsburgh game got a little out of hand for them, Blake. It was 5-1. It was the 5-2 scoreline of St. Louis. Okay, maybe some of these scorelines were closer than what indicated 5-2 in Minnesota. Well, let me just ask you, is that fair? Have they been in every game? Or is he putting a little too much bloom on the rose?
For taking that literally,
here?
no, they haven't been in every game. But have they been in the majority of their games? By all means. The question, the nuanced question that I would differentiate from that one is, did you get the feeling watching the majority of those games that the Canucks could win those games? So the score was close enough that they were in, quote unquote, every game or close to it. But did you feel like they could win a lot of those games? And that's where I would say I have some doubts. Like, again, the lack of difference makers. The fact that Elias Pettersson, while his point totals are not horrific, is he making you feel like at any given moment he's just going to go out and win them the game? And of course, Quinn Hughes, who rarely gets any criticism, rightly so, even him, who has worn the cape so many times in years previous for the Vancouver Canucks, he seems to have misplaced the cape a little bit. And you don't even feel like he can say, I got this, I'm going to change this game. So I would say that's the different question from the one that he answered.
Let's hear from McLean, who talked about, well, it's time to start putting some wins together, given who's coming back to the lineup.
Yeah, I mean, clearly coming back now, we feel like if we can string some wins together here, that would be great. And like you said, getting those big players back for us is huge. When our guys have done such a good job keeping us 500 here, that if we can really start to build off of that now and put some points in the bank, that could be really good for us here moving into the middle part of the season.
Here's what I do hope. If we are going to see a season where everybody is, for the most part, tightly packed together, and right now it's early, so I think you will see some separation as the year goes along. But if we are going to see the Gary's dream, as you call it, parity through and through, gosh, I hope that pays off in a, just out of this world, fantastic, can you believe this, final fortnight of the season, right?
Yes.
Because we have talked about it over the last few years.
Usually one conference is signed, sealed, and delivered.
That's it.
Yeah.
Is like you haven't had playoff chases and playoff races with that great drama going right down to the end as much as you would hope.
Not on both
if
sides
you're a
anyway.
parity salary cap, driven league.
Yeah. Yeah. Usually one conference has that, and one conference is usually like, they're just jockeying for position at this point.
Jeff had a tweet going into Monday night, like if Canucks win tonight, it can leap all the way to, I forget, it was second place or first place. But I mean, it is that tight. Now, Vancouver win tonight gets them to 16 points, which may not even be enough to get over the playoff bar, because that's where it is right now, with the Kings holding down the final spot and Edmonton, of all teams, a spot below. Anaheim leading this division at 17 points. Vegas on the same number of points as well. Anyways, looking forward to the game. Always, it's just a classic, beautiful uniform from the Chicago Blackhawks, and they have good young players, including one, Connor Bedard, who is often worth the price of admission.
I also feel like, Matt, because of the immense sporting distractions that we've had over the past 6 weeks, and 9 road games for the Vancouver Canucks, it sort of feels like the home opener all over again. It sort of feels like, okay, now we can sink into the chair and focus on the Canucks just a little bit more.
It's not just the sporting distractions, Blake. We've turned the clocks back, and so now it's dark
early on, yeah.
5 o'clock, right? The rain and sort of cooler temperatures have set in, although it's not all that cold today. So, it's feeling a little bit more like hockey weather, like, winter is upon us, even if we're 6 weeks out. So, I understand what you're saying. Also, as we've talked about in the past, those early Canuck road game starts in the central and eastern time zone are just not the most accessible games for a big part of the market. And most people are more likely to take in games when they're 7 p.m. after dinner in the Pacific and Mountain time zones.
The Canucks are hoping they will never be described this season as the little dog. I think they consider themselves at least a mid-sized dog.
Talking like border collie here.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, not a German Shepherd. That's Colorado Avalanche.
What's with the little dog? I'm not following.
Yellow Dog has the little dog syndrome. Double IPA. Now, to be fair, it's a little dog with a heck of a bite here. It's their third fresh hop beer of the season. Double IPA, fresh mosaic hops, drinkable punch, bursting with citrus and papaya, finishing with that piney bite. It's part of the Big Dog series, but it's a little dog, and it's supersized. It's like a Chihuahua, but the size of a German Shepherd. Should be a formidable dog.
Kevin Lankinen's, I see what she did there. Kevin Lankinen starts tonight, coming off that shootout win in St. Louis, where he hopefully got his season back on track. It was 2 goals to begin that game, and I think he was very much walking the tightrope in terms of coach's trust and ceding starts to Thatcher Demko after an uneven start to the season. He's 2-3 with a .353 goals against average and an .885 save percentage, both wins coming by way of shootout, one against these Hawks. Now, all that said, he has never lost to the Blackhawks. That's what I
was going to say. Read the Hawks
since
stats.
Leaving the organization. 4-0, a 196 goals against average, a .935 save percentage in 4 games. And he didn't even get the Artur Shilov's wins last year against Chicago, right? Already got 2 against Chicago. So, Lankinen between the pipes. And I suspect he will play another one of these games on the weekend, right? With Columbus on Saturday and Winnipeg on Sunday.
That's good. And I'm glad and I think Demko looking average the last couple of starts has probably helped them give this start. But, if Demko had continued to be red hot, you wondered if this was one that was on the schedule for him that might be taken off, given that he's splitting the weekend as well. But he stays on schedule. This is what the Canucks need to do throughout the season. We'll continue to pat them on the back and give them positive reinforcement on this. Share the workload.
Did I say Winnipeg Sunday? Colorado Sunday. Columbus Saturday, Colorado Sunday. Which I guess means that he's going to play the Colorado game. Or are you going to go Lankinen 2 in a row?
Maybe you go Lankinen 2 in a row. Maybe.
Really?
It's a long break for Demko.
That's a very long break for Demko.
But is that a bad thing, given that we saw him wane a little bit?
Yes. Well, we'll see how this game goes. If you win this one, then I think you have that as a possibility. If you lose this one, I don't think so. Vitaly Kravtsov, he cleared waivers from Abbotsford, contract terminated. He's headed back to the KHL to play for Tractor. That means the Canucks are now carrying 45 contracts, which gives them a lot of room to add without having to trade players out, either on the NHL roster or signed players in Abbotsford or elsewhere. But it also means the dearth of forwards continues for AHL Abbotsford. The baby Canucks have lost 8 in a row, 7 in regulation. Worst team in the division in defense of their, in fact, worst team in the conference in defense of their Calder Cup championship. They lost 6-1 and 7-3 at home on the weekend to Henderson, the farm club of the Vegas Golden Knights. They're into first place Colorado this weekend. The Eagles are 9-2 on the year. They, of course, lost that West Division final to Abbotsford last season in a decisive Game 5 as the baby Canucks went on to win the Calder Cup championship. But holy cow, is it a R.C. Baines, Max Sasson, and Linus Karlsson are all up with the big club now. So is
Mancini, DPD. If you go back to the start of last year, Kirill Kudryavtsev just got sent back down, but he'd been with the big club for a fair chunk. Like, they have been decimated from their roster last year.
Yeah. You've got Ben Berard, a 26-year-old from Duncan, British Columbia, who's pacing that team with 7 points in 9 games. Nils Oman and Joseph Lebate, both of whom have seen NHL action this year, are at 5 points. Kravtsov had 4 in 10 games, which isn't great shakes, but on this team, that we consider that contributing. They have 2 other forwards, including just 2 assists in 8 games for your boy Danila Klimovich. So, yikes. Things are not looking great for our Ty Mueller. He had that terrific season, first-year pro, 1 goal in 9 games, Blake, for the Abbotsford Canucks. He was coming off injury, of course. We have high hopes for the hulking Swede, Vilmer Ulriksson, all 6'6", 235 pounds of him. He's got 1 goal in 8 games. So Plenty of work to do for Manny Malhotra and the Abbotsford coaches in getting that team back into the thick of it. And they just lost a guy who, of course, would be a contributor had he wanted to stick around and play in North America. And lastly here, Blake, did you see our friend Nikita Zadorov last night, the former Canucks defenseman?
Patting his Pims.
Holy cow. He takes quite a good shot at New York Islanders rookie sensation Matthew Schaefer. And needless to say, a dog pile ensues there because Schaefer has been the be-all, end-all for the Islanders this year, the first overall pick, who not only hasn't looked out of place, he's become the Islanders' top defenseman in short order here. He's playing in all situations. He's scoring beautiful goals. He's a magnificent skater, him. Anyways, so here comes the dog pile between the Bruins and the Islanders. And needless to say, the Islanders fans were going to let Zadorov have it both in building and on social media. What does Big Nikita do? Well, he gets home after the game. He gets on Insta. He sees all the comments, some of them quite profane. And he says to the whole group, get out of my DMs and go to the rink to cheer for your team. That place was a library tonight.
Oh, really?
All caps.
He is a character. And he actually said he was basically just going out there to stir shit up and pad his penalty minutes.
I loved his honesty when he was here. I still love his honesty.
But you need backbone leaders that keep his check and balances, right? Like you need boundaries put for a player like that.
Yeah, the Flames didn't want him anymore. They didn't want him in their room anymore.
Yeah, he can't be the loudest voice in the room.
Although he is loud.
Yeah.
By the way, have you seen what the former Canucks captain is doing on the island?
Yeah, he's having a hell of a year.
It's 9 goals in 13 games for Bo Horvat this year. It's 15 points in 13 games. Now, of course, the year the Canucks traded him, he had that sizzling first half, and he tapered off in the second half. It's a career-high 68 points for Bo. So, he got to 70 that one year in the year of the split between the Canucks and the Islanders. So I think we know what Bo is, but wow.
Credit to him. He's just
for sure.
This back half of his career to this point has just been it's a higher ceiling than I thought maybe he could get to.
No, Blake, he's 30 now.
Yeah,
you want to feel old?
I know,
baby Bo. He's 30 now. Okay, let's get to today's menu. Brought to you by Greta, which is where you want to be pregame and postgame because you were just steps from the arena or the stadium. It's a fantastic spot to watch the big game, but an even better spot for your upcoming party or event. If you need a venue for team building, a sociable, check out Greta. They have the fantastic street food menu. Share the poutine. It's really big. It's really filling. And, of course, the arcade that encircles the bar. Fun for everybody. A game for everybody. For more info to book your event, gretabar.com. Greta 50 West Cordova. Let the games begin. We'll talk to Frank Corrado here, former Vancouver Canuck and TSN hockey analyst, who you've been told the NHL isn't a development league, right? Well, you'll want to hear Frank and what he sees going on around the league. Frank's also going to give us some inside knowledge from a guy who's been there in terms of what Adam Foote and his system is asking these Canucks players, both defensemen when it comes to pinching and what they're trying to do on the quote-unquote mini forecheck. We also get into Tom Willander, Quinn Hughes, and this Canucks defense core with Frank. And then Rob Williams. And we talked to Rob about just the sporting buffet that's going on in our community here, where the Whitecaps and the Lions are in the playoffs playing huge games. Needless to say, a ton of Jays fans in this community that are still sucking on that loss on Saturday night, Game 7 of the World Series. A report this week that the Memphis Grizzlies and New Orleans Pelicans could
Rob
be
loves him some Grizzlies.
relocation candidates in the NBA. So we talked to Rob about all of those things, as well as this Canucks Blackhawks game. Bedard potentially coming on home, and 7-7, glass half full, glass half empty. Later in the program, take a look forward to the Lions and Riders on Saturday in the West Division final, including some history, including some injuries on both sides of the ledger. And Whitecaps, they got a long break between games here, but there was plenty of soccer happenings, including the Vancouver Rise, and the Whitecaps were there to support their fellow footy players in our community, not to mention the Soccer Don. MLS Commissioner Don Garber is in Vancouver this week. We're going to lean on BC Place and Pavco for a better lease deal for the Whitecaps, talking about the sustainability of this club. They, of course, are looking for an investor, talking about more flexibility so the Whitecaps can get better dates. And MLS Best 11 named today, some Whitecaps featured there as well. So that's all coming up as well. Shane Bieber decides to opt into the Blue Jays. Boy, these Blue Jays wives just, they can't quit Toronto. They can't quit Canada. They can't quit that clubhouse.
Clubhouses and dressing rooms, and then there are the Blue Jays. Like it's not just talk.
No, I know.
Like they're literally flushing money down the drain to stay together.
Exactly. Like tens of millions of dollars they are leaving on the table, or at least one guy is.
Words are free. We see athletes talk shit all the time because it's free to say whatever.
Yeah.
To actually back it up.
That's it.
Whew.
That's it. This is money where your mouths are.
Yes.
So that's all coming up on the show today. Time now for our Bet365 bets of the day. Blake, I took a future yesterday. You were on an NHL game. Anaheim?
I was on Anaheim, who comfortably won. Smacked.
Well, then the tea is yours, sir. What are you looking at tonight?
Until this one pays off, I'm going to keep going back to it because I've been denied every time I've gone to it. Can we get a 2-point night out of Quinn Hughes, please? Can Quinn Hughes, and don't throw me his Corsies and stuff and say this is what he's doing. That's great. He needs to be on this team generating bottom line offense. And I need a 2.9 out of him tonight, plus 215. That number's starting to creep up now as it becomes fewer and farther between his 2-point games.
What, Bet365 doesn't believe in Quinn Hughes?
Well, it's starting to. That number's getting bigger, which is good for you to put some dough on.
Mike, it's probably too big an effort, but I think we need a bottom line counter. Every time Blake or Jeff says bottom line, I want it like a tick in the corner of the screen. The number of times I have heard the phrase bottom line come out of Blake's mouth or Jeff's mouth this year,
for good reason.
Staggering.
For good reason.
Yeah.
Not enough of it from a number of players.
Team that's not putting in a lot of goals, bottom line becomes the theme.
Yep.
Canucks have just 2 multi-goal wins this year. They only have 3 regulation wins this year. But multi-goal wins this year. They beat Dallas with an empty netter 3 weeks ago. They beat the Flames by 4 on opening night.
So really won.
They had 3 multi-goal wins over Chicago last year. Canucks to win straight up is no value there. Canucks minus 1.5. Again, maybe they just blow the Hawks out. Maybe they get an empty netter. That's paying a plus 150.
Okay.
This segment, a presentation of Bet365. Whatever your bet, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app, get in on the game. Use code NATION when doing so. Must be 19 or older. Please play responsibly. Frank Corrado, next. Sick Harrison Price from the Historic Wall Center.
This segment brought to you by your Pacific Toyota dealers, and more specifically, the Toyota Prius Plug-in Hybrid Edition. If you've been seeing this fabulous car around town, you've probably done a double take because it's certainly a new shape, new look, and it's new performance as well. This car has zip. If you want to make sure that you're in a car that's got all the perks of an electric vehicle, because it can be fully electric when you want it to be, but you want it to be fun to drive, this is the one. Get behind the wheel, sit inside that cockpit with the intuitive dashboard. You're going to fall in love. Right now, you can lease one for $99 weekly at 3.49% APR for 64 months with $3,600 down. That includes a $3,000 discount. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Pacific Toyota dealer today.
It's time now we welcome in the former Vancouver Canuck and TSN hockey analyst, Mr. Frank Corrado. Frank, how are you?
I'm good, boys. What's going on?
Got Bedard in town tonight. Looking forward to that. Like watching them play. They have coming off a winning road trip. Frank got that game in Nashville.
Let's ask you your report card. They're a 7-7 team. They've got an injury list that is a mile long. They've played predominantly road games, and yet, we also saw a few games with them healthy at the start of the year in which they also did not look that great.
Yeah, we had the glass half full or half empty.
We don't know how to pin down this team. There's a lot of good reasons for why they're at. There's a lot of flowers that they should receive in some ways, but ultimately we sort of I want to tamp down some expectation of how good this team is even when fully healthy, but I don't know. Tell us what you have seen from this team that is maybe improbably 7-7.
I think that the 7-7 is quite optimistic on what they are as a team. They don't really jump off the page right now with the process of how they play.
Anything.
The only thing that I can think of, and this is going to sound like a backhanded compliment, is they spend a decent amount of time in the offensive zone, but nothing really happens with it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just
no difference makers there right now, right?
They're in the offensive zone. It's just it never really gets to the middle. Doesn't get to the middle very often. Doesn't look overly threatening, overly dangerous. But when push has come to shove, they've scored goals, and they've scored the timely goal. And most importantly than that, they've got excellent goaltending and timely saves. I think if you're trying to project and forecast where this team is going, it feels like at some point something would give and there would be more of a downturn just based on the quality and quantity of chances they give up and just the lack of what they produce. But for the time being, hey man, wins are wins. Not easy to win games on the road. I don't care who you're playing. Now Evander Kane has scored. You've got a young defenseman playing like Pettersson. I mean, we'll talk about it, but there's always that conversation is incredibly polarizing now. Maybe more than ever. But yeah, there's you're happy you get the wins, you're happy you got the timely goals, but the process is not exactly like a glowing indicator of this team being, a team to be reckoned with.
Process isn't great, not all that threatening. Puck doesn't get to the middle a lot. Granted, he missed 4 games, but in the 10 Quinn Hughes has played, Frank, like he hasn't been otherworldly. We're still waiting for the first like superstar put on the cape performance from Quinn Hughes. What have you seen or not seen from him in the early going?
Well, first of all, I would say that it's not uncommon for a guy who does superhuman things to look human at times. It's just the reality. Like if you're watching Edmonton right now, you're kind of seeing it with McDavid and Draisaitl, a lot of hockey that has caught up to those guys. And with Quinn Hughes, like he plays so much. He's so involved in the game at all times. I guess the thing right now with Hughes is when he's at his best, he's willing to be in every puck kind of confrontation and have it as much as possible. And it's not that he's shying away from it, certainly not the case. But when you're a guy who kind of lives and dies by being explosive with your feet and juking guys and welcoming pressure and getting out of those turns, if you don't have that extra gear, like if you don't have the split second reaction, then you're not going to look superhuman. the way he normally can. And the fact that he's missed time, and he's battled through stuff for a long time. Like, he battled through stuff last year when it was a wrist, but that doesn't affect your feet. It's just the reality of these guys, that they have such separating skill sets, but when that almost gets equalized a tiny degree, it brings you back down to the pack a little bit. Now, he's still an unbelievable defenseman. He's still going to make big time plays, but that's just the reality of being a player like that.
We had a good discussion about your torchbearer yesterday, and if you missed last week's hit with Frank, Tom Willander is the first drafted and developed right shot defenseman to play a game for the Vancouver Canucks since Frank Corrado. 4 games, a couple of high ice time games, a couple of lower ice time games. We wondered about whether he's seen Abby for the last time, or because of his waiver ineligibility, whether that's still going to be a thing. But what have you seen from Willander? And I guess I'll just ask it simply. Is that an NHL defenseman right now?
It's an NHL defenseman. It's an NHL defenseman right now, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he's done with seeing Abbotsford. It's just the reality of him being able to go up and down without waivers makes him the easy guy. And if ice time is going to be like what was it in the Nashville game? He's playing 10:52. Like, 10:52 is not doing him much good at the NHL level. Like, it's okay. But for a guy like that, you still want to prioritize having all the big moments and being out there a lot. But he's on the cusp of it. Like, it really does feel like he's on the cusp. And for me, when your young third pair guy makes the jump to the NHL, I would like to see him play 15 minutes a night. I think that's a fair, you're not giving him too much, but you're asking him to contribute and hold up his side of the deal, whereas 10-52 and there's differing reasons why that happens, special teams, weird face-offs, it's just the reality. Like, sometimes it's the way it all kind of shakes out, but 15 minutes a night and you're contributing, you can stay in the NHL. Right outside of the numbers game and who's coming back and who has opportunities. If you're going to see that tail off, then it's probably better spent playing for Abbotsford, but he'll be a guy that comes up and plays. He looks confident, man. Like, his assist that he has against Nashville, he's taking the puck around the net, he's making a play with it. It doesn't look like a guy that's holding back or afraid and just kind of out there to not make a mistake. So, like, he just, listen, they need him to be a guy. He's on his way to being a guy. But there might be a time where it gets crowded again and he goes back down, and that won't be the worst thing for him, especially if he's going to play 11 minutes.
There's, when the crowding happens from all these young players, does a rotation do anybody good? Or do they have to be in one place or the other more permanently, do you think? And that's if Mancini, Willander, and DP are all available.
It's a lot of guys to have a rotation with, right? If it was one guy in, one guy out, and your young guy every once in a while has to come out, there's something to be said to being a young guy and playing a little bit and then coming out and going to watch up top, because what happens is you'll kind of put yourself back on the ice from the bird's eye view and say, okay, in that play behind the net, I had that play last game. I felt like I had more time. And now you're watching it happen from above and you're like, you know what? I did have more time. And it just kind of reassures some of the things that might be going through your head. And you can come back in and have more confidence. Now, sitting in the press box for 30 games, that's not doing it. Like, that's, 10 games that you're not getting that effect. That is you've played for a good stretch. Maybe something has tailed off a little bit. Let's get you up top. We'll watch a game and then go back down. That's not the same, though, as a rotation where you're trying to get 3 guys in. I find that to be more difficult to negotiate. There's just a lot of stuff you have to juggle, right? Like, how do you keep everyone happy? How do you keep your team optimized as well? Eventually, you're going to like a pair and you're like, I got to give this runway because it gives me a better chance to win. So I don't see a scenario where like a true rotation works. But if you're telling me he's going to come out every once in a while, and sort of get his eyes on things and go back in and see if that helps him, that's fine for a young guy. I don't have an issue with that.
This team was so high in DPD last year and, crowned him to the point where he wasn't sent back for the AHL run, in fact, which I thought was surprising. And they sort of handed him a job. And now he's fine. Not worried per se, but it's been uneven for DPD. What do you think the treatment should be for a player like that who's still young, still can be sent without waivers down to the minors and all that? Like, what should they just let him ride it out and iron all this stuff out?
Well, so the development curve is never linear. Like, you're just going to take your lumps, right? And this kid is what? He's like not even 50 games into his NHL career. And how many times have guys told you we don't know what a defenseman is, until it's 200 games, whatever. Like, there's no guarantee that you get 200 games, but he's obviously shown enough in the first 40 something games that you believe he can be a part of this for you, because like, he's a sturdy guy. He skates well. He's fine with the puck. Like, he gives you what you want out of that type of player. There's really no red flags with him. So you get to a point where you're like, he's going to have to learn on the job at some point. And he more falls into that category for me than Willander, because Willander's game is going to have, it's going to be more all encompassing, right? Like, he's
are those two guys, Willander and DP, are they in the coach's office a bit more than anybody else? Like, are they getting one-on-one coaching to sort of iron out? Yeah,
they should. Yeah, like, young guys should. As a young guy, you should never have to go seek it out or say, "Yeah, I'm going to grab the iPad and watch my shifts by myself." Like, it's okay to get kind of spoon-fed a little bit at the beginning of your career, because these guys, you're invested in these guys, man.
Yeah,
right. Like, take an interest, and it's different when you sit down with the coach and watch some shifts, even if it's just a period, right? Like, it's all clipped. It's not like you're sitting there for an hour. You sit there for 8 minutes with the coach, watch your shifts. And you could feel like you're learning something about the game. Yeah, I mean, that's when I was coming up, it was like NHL is just a win now league and it's not a development league. That's changed. That is completely changed now. You got 18-year-old defensemen making the jump right away. You got 20-year-old guys that are the best forwards on teams now. The NHL absolutely is a development league now. So if coaches don't want to adapt to that and adopt that mentality, then you're doing a disservice to your young players. So I absolutely agree. Like, these young guys, you need to try and grab them as much as possible. Don't overdo it. Don't
hover. Yeah.
Don't hover. Give them room to breathe. But you gotta be willing to put in a little extra effort from the coach's side of things with these guys.
I want you to help us out on this, because you're so good on the X's and O's, and it's so Victor Mancini goes on a puck journey in preseason, tries to skate it through a couple of zones, and as we've talked about with Mancini, that's a fun sight when he does it. That is a very big man who's got pretty good wheels and pretty good hands to be doing that. After the game, Adam Foote says, "Yeah, well, sometimes you got to rein that in a little bit." By the same token, and we've seen this a fair bit this year, Foote and his staff clearly want those defensemen pinching a little bit more than what we saw in the Rick Tocchet era, trying to keep that puck in, trying to create some offense from coming down off the blue line along the walls. Tell me why a coach would want defensemen pinching a little bit more off the blue line, but are a little more nervous about the defenseman trying to puck carry through a few more zones.
Because the defenseman pinching in is not necessarily making a play with the puck. He's trying to help keep it alive and is going to poke it to the forwards and is going to have a layer of protection or support from the centerman or the third player who's high in the zone. So you feel like you're insulated that way. When a defenseman who's not Quinn Hughes or Lane Hudson or Cale Makar, we know the guys. When it's not one of those guys, tries to do the, I'm going to skate it through guys and slice and dice through the neutral zone, you don't have your protection anymore, because you're carrying it up and everyone's waiting for you at the offensive blue line and everyone's had their motion And now if you cough it up in that situation, it's an odd man rush the other way. So you can be more aggressive as a defenseman without the puck, more than you can be with the puck, because you have a layer of protection.
So there's no rules for when like a defenseman has the puck on his stick with some speed and is crossing the red line for a forward to do the same thing as they would when the defenseman is pinching in offense?
It doesn't really make any sense, because you're kind of counting on the defenseman, like the onus is on him to make a good play with it, and that play means we got to go north with it. We got to go towards the opposition's net. Like there's some defensemen who, if you're a forward, you can pretty much figure it out. It's going to go D to D. He's going to take 3 hard strides. He's going to get to the red line, and he's going to try and ring it all the way around. So you can kind of plan your forecheck and go to the other side of the ice. But someone like Quinn Hughes is not doing that all the time. He might have something up his sleeve. So now you have to try and be prepared for a pass that might, come all the way across the blue line. And in both of those situations, what you're not doing is thinking, I've got to back this guy up and I've got to be his protection. It's just not, it goes against everything that coaches talk about when they talk about playing fast and playing north. It's just totally different. Now, just one quick one on that. Defensemen have the green light when a puck gets like bungled up in the offensive zone in the corner. Defensemen have the opportunity to do what's called a pre-pinch or sit on the winger. And what that does is it just allows you to not have to make it like a 50-50 play where you dive down the wall. It's like, I'm already here and I've established, and now we've really shrunk this ice in half to the point that like I'm a stick length away from anything. The pre-pinch is better than the pinch. Like the pre-pinch means it's a more high percentage play. So if you ever see one of these guys, just creeping down there slowly, puck gets bungled up, that's a green light special all the time.
Yeah. One more technical question for you, Frank. I meant to get to this last week, but Adam Foote got quite expansive in one of his answers last week about what he calls the mini forecheck. And for those of you on visual platforms, we'll have this is Canucks news summaries that summarize what Foote was saying in bullet point form. So when a shot goes on net to either the weak or the strong side, the Canucks are good at forechecking. The defensemen are getting involved, trusting the reload. He explained that reload is when the forward backs up the defenseman before the defenseman even sees it. He said the defensemen were pausing in previous games, weren't trusting the forward to reload. Decipher all that for us. Tell us what they're trying to do there on what he calls the mini forecheck.
So essentially, there's no guessing between the defenseman and the, high forward, like the F3. Defensive forward, right? Like two guys are going to be in. There's one guy who's kind of like the protection layer, right? He's the guy who often gets the puck off a cycle in like that quiet little area of the ice, right? So there's no guessing. Anything that's like a spray off the goalie or that's like a dump in off the back wall and it's coming around either way, that is 100% not the forward's puck, and it's the defenseman's puck. And basically what's happening is the forward will just go right to the defenseman's spot, so the defenseman feels like he's got enough protection that it's just go. And if it happens to the other side, it's just go again. There's no guessing, is it the forward or is it me? Now, I've never heard mini forecheck before. Like, I'll be completely honest with you. I've never come across that, never played with anything like that. Like, that's a philosophy that's pretty standard, I guess. One thing that Rick Tocchet, was kind of known for is the skinny forecheck, where it's exactly what it sounds like. Instead of two forwards kind of going down the dots, to take away a D-to-D pass, the forecheck all of a sudden becomes skinny and it goes to one side of the ice, basically like cutting it in half. And then that means your defenseman also has a green light to go down. And that can have the effect of feeling like, there's one extra player on the ice because your forward is going to come back and cover for the D. It really just, all they've kind of done here is said that we're taking the thinking out of it. Defensemen are going, and if you're that third forward high, your number one priority, protect the D. And it's going to feel like we're skating down towards teams, not across the ice, where teams have more of an ability to make lateral plays on us.
Yeah, and
that's trusting the forwards to skate backward, Frank.
So what
do they tell you when you play defense? Don't trust the forward.
Yeah.
That's amazing stuff. You make us smarter on the X's and O's of hockey every week. I so enjoy hearing you explain it. You're one of the best in the business. Thank you for this, Frank, and have a good week. Catch up next Wednesday.
Okay, boys. You guys are the best. We'll talk.
Oh, so kind. Sekeres and Price from the historic Wall Center. We welcome in now the national sports editor of the Daily Hive and its Offside Sports Vertical, Rob the Hockey Guy on Twitter, Rob Williams. Back here on Sekeres and Price. How are you?
Doing great, guys. I've mended my broken Blue Jays heart, I think.
Oh, I talked to a lot of people that had tough Sundays.
You know what, though, guys? I'm a Blue Jays bandwagoner, I'll admit. Like, they're my team, but, like, I fade in and out of interest. So, you know, like many people in Canada jumped on the bandwagon. The nice thing about when you're a bandwagon fan is you get over the losses pretty quick.
Yeah, you do.
Do you know what I mean? Like 2011 took me years to get over.
Right.
You know, I'm going to be okay by Thursday, I think.
But you know what's funny here, Rob, is I very much feel like this 2025 Blue Jays team is this fan base's 94 Canucks moment. The near miss with a team that will be beloved and lionized for decades to come, especially if there's no World Series championship.
Well, you know what? They reminded me of this because did you see in Toronto, there's a push from some fans, I don't know how large it is, to have a parade for the Jays, even though they lost Game 7. And Canucks fans will remember the 94 team had a rally at BC Place, like
really
kind of like a championship rally. Yeah, check it out. There's video out there of the rally that they held, and there were like, I don't know how many people there were. There must have been like 20,000 people, 30,000 people, something like that. They came out to cheer on the 94 Canucks. And I think it's, you know, the thing they have in common is they were the underdogs, right? Going in, and it was an unexpected run. You know, where I think people thought the Yankees were going to beat the Blue Jays in the first round, and they definitely thought the Dodgers were going to win in the World Series. So, yeah, kind of some parallels there, but yeah, I wasn't old enough to find it embarrassing in 94, but this would be really
There were parades in 94 and 2011.
Wow.
They were just a little bit violent. That's all.
They were disorganized and violent.
Yeah.
99 Leafs held a parade losing in the conference final to the Sabres. They did.
Wow.
Do you think how big do you think a Whitecaps parade would be if the Whitecaps won MLS Cup?
Well, I've seen the video of the soccer bowl, the 79 soccer bowl. And that
there is precedent
awesome.
to show up. Yeah.
Yeah. I really think that the Whitecaps are capturing the imagination of the city here, I think now, right? Like this is a sold out crowd. I went on Ticketmaster just before I came on to see how many tickets are left. There's no more tickets that you can buy that aren't resale. I'm looking to confirm with the Caps on, you know, because I know they've been adding seats in the upper bowl that they've been making available. Yeah. Whether it's sold out now or sells out later, like this is going to sell out. I could not believe how many tickets they sold on day one. Day one, the tickets went on sale 10 a.m. Sunday. By Sunday afternoon, you could not buy a ticket in the lower bowl, and the tickets in the upper bowl by Monday were flying off the shelves as well. I think last report I saw was from Har was over 42,000. Yeah. But yeah, how great is that? I mean, I think this is like kind of the thing we've been waiting for with the Whitecaps is to have a playoff run, have a moment where they can really get the city behind them. And boy, oh boy, would it be great if they could capitalize on this and come up with a huge win in the playoffs at home.
I do wonder how many of these tickets have been sold to Korean Canadians who are there to support the great superstar Sonny.
It's possible.
And I hope they see fit to cheer on their man and cheer on the Caps at the same time. I can remember covering basketball in the Olympics, China versus the United States, and the roars for Kobe when he did something were massive. They were cheering for Kobe. They were cheering for their team.
Well, we've already seen it with Messi, right? Like a lot of people were there to see Messi. But when those Whitecaps goals went in, the lid popped off. So.
Yeah. Rob, you fired an interesting poll this week on X about what the Vancouver sports fan would rather see here this season. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I was just sort of curious. Would you rather see the Whitecaps win the MLS Cup because they sure are a contender to win it, right? Like they're one of the powerhouse teams in MLS this season. BC Lions are on an absolute tear. They could, 2 wins away from the Grey Cup here, so they could easily win their first Grey Cup since 2011. Or the Vancouver Canucks make the playoffs. They're on the outside looking in. We know this is a Canucks town, but what really, if you could have one, if you only could pick one, which one are you picking? My followers picked MLS Cup, and I think I understand that. Like we've never seen it before.
That's it.
We've never seen the Whitecaps even make the conference finals, so that would be really cool. I think coming into this season, like that really seemed like, like a real long shot. Like how are the we've asked questions before, like can the Whitecaps ever compete in MLS, right? Like are they just going to be are there the haves and the have-nots, and they're just a have-not, and they're just going to be, a good season for them would be compete with the big boys until the teams with the real superstars take over, right?
Yeah, and I voted Whitecaps, Rob, because it's the hardest one of the three.
It's the biggest rarity,
right?
Yeah.
I know the Lions haven't won a Grey Cup in 11 years. Haven't been to the Grey Cup in 11 years. That second one's the longest CFL drought. I mean, Canucks just making the playoffs. Half the teams make the playoffs.
You don't get a trophy.
Like,
you
it's
don't
not
get
that
a
great
trophy.
Achievement, but holy cow! If the Whitecaps were to go through Sonny and Larice with LAFC, and then not to mention who they'd face in the next round, and then potentially even Lionel Messi in Miami.
Can you imagine a third match?
Oh my God! Blow the roof off BC place. It would be that kind of special. So.
And and the stakes are high here too, right? Like Don Garber, the commissioner, is coming into town this week to help lobby for the Whitecaps to get their own stadium. And I always think back to the Seattle Mariners in the mid-90s when they were playing at the Kingdome, and we saw the Sonics leave because they didn't want to pay for, the government was going to pay for a new stadium for the Sonics. That nearly happened to the Seattle Mariners, and that refused to lose teams that captured the imagination of Seattle popped off in the mid-90s, and suddenly there was the political wherewithal to build what is now T-Mobile Field. And winning is it's not everything, but it sure helps, I think, to get the politicians on side, to get the city on side, to get maybe a prospective new owner on side, to get maybe just to convince the existing owners to maybe pour in more money. I think it could really help if the Whitecaps, certainly go on a long playoff run, but if they could win the MLS Cup, I wonder what that does for their future in terms of getting a new stadium built.
What doesn't help is Seattle now looking for a majority investor as well. So these two Northwest teams both looking for an infusion of money.
Hey, Rob, did you see that report this week that the Memphis Grizzlies and New Orleans Pelicans might be relocation candidates in the NBA?
I didn't actually know. Interesting, right? I don't know that Vancouver's top of the list here. I still.
Well, they want expansion money out of Vegas and Seattle.
They would prefer expansion money out of Vegas and Seattle. Now, I do think Vegas and Seattle are probably your relocation destinations because I think they are markets that matter more. But I got to say, when Adam Silver first started talking about Vancouver, kind of like when Rob Manfred talks about Vancouver, I sort of dismissed it. But Silver said something that I thought was pretty interesting a little while back, where he talked about, basketball is such an international game now that they're a little less concerned about markets and more concerned about regions. Regions also perhaps being like countries, we know how big the NBA is in China right now. It's now a big part of their business. I'm just wondering if Silver has seen what took place here with the Blue Jays and went, wow, like there are a lot of sports fans in Canada. And, of course, they're still called the Grizzlies, right? So we should have right of first refusal.
That's sort of what I think.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what
until
I
they
think.
change the name.
If you're going to take the team out of Vancouver because you think you've got a better idea and then you screw up the better idea, it should be defaulted back.
I heard it all
free.
I heard it all the time when I was on the NBA beat. Memphis for Vancouver, worst trade in NBA history.
Yeah.
There are no Grizzlies in Memphis, for heaven's sakes. I mean, you kept the name, much like Lakers and Los Angeles and Jazz.
Alas, we know Stephen A. won't be coming here, as he once told us. Too far, too damn far.
Guys, I would love nothing more to see the Grizzlies especially to come back. Like, give me any team. I'm not picky, but the Grizzlies especially to be able to kind of keep the history and kind of right or wrong would be so cool. I do wonder. My mind kind of wandered on this one because everyone's assumed that Seattle and Vegas would be the next two expansion cities, and once they get the new CBA all done, that was going to happen pretty quick. And Adam Silver's kind of poured cold water a little bit on that. Like, he's kind of downplayed it. I don't know if it's strategic or what, but in terms of just saying like, well, I don't know if we want to expand. And I mean, is that related to they maybe don't want to expand because they are going to move a couple teams instead? But the minute Seattle and Vegas get teams, that kind of puts, like Vancouver's not that far off on candidates after those two teams or after those two cities. So I do wonder about that. It's funny. I was having a bit of an argument with some friends of mine, talking more about like Vancouver is an MLB city, but NBA, this would qualify for NBA as well. I think whenever you bring up like, okay, could Vancouver support another team? I think there's a lot of people in the city that go, no, we couldn't. And it's almost like this inferiority complex that we maybe have, because you look at, I don't know, I just find myself looking at other cities. And the one I was talking to with some friends of mine was Pittsburgh. Vancouver's a little bit bigger than Pittsburgh. Is Pittsburgh like this? Does it just have so much more money than Vancouver that it can support 3 major pro teams and Vancouver can only support 1?
Post-industrial
there's
Pittsburgh?
a lot of cities.
No.
Like Denver has all 4 major pro sports teams. Vancouver has 1. They're similar sized cities. There's a lot of examples like this in the US. The one thing that I need to see for Vancouver to really take it serious is who's the billionaire with the deep pockets.
Well, that's it.
That wants to make this happen. That's what we're missing.
So a few things there. First,
the billionaire that wants to pay rent.
So
right? You could. I think there are a couple billionaires do that, but they don't want to pay rent.
Well, the Canucks are looking for an investor too, Blake. Manfred talks about Vancouver a lot, but his latest comments on Blair and Barker, I think, were telling. I think he knows basically baseball already has Vancouver. It comes in the form of Blue Jays fandom or Mariners fandom. I think putting a team here would cut into some of that. Plus, a baseball stadium is a much bigger footprint than a hockey or basketball arena. We know how expensive and precious land is in this community. So, plus it would have to be it would have to have an indoor component, right? You're not playing baseball here in the spring without a fair number of rainouts. So I am very, very doubtful on baseball. I'm a little more on basketball because, hey, who knows how much longer the Aquilinis are in this game. And would you have a rich enough guy who would be interested in not only buying the Canucks, where you do already have a facility, right? Like, you're not in the stadium construction business there. It's not like you need to lobby anyone for public monies to build something. And then you bring in the NBA team to book even more dates at the facility. I think we're a long way from there, but I do wonder going forward because, the one thing is you talk about wealth, Rob, there are not many communities in North America that have the sort of wealth that this community has. We lack in terms of head offices and corporate sponsorships, and I think Don Garber will talk a lot about that actually while he's here in Vancouver, because sponsorships have been more difficult, at least sponsorships at that really high-end spend level has been more difficult because there's just not enough head offices here in Vancouver. But, long term, I think there's a narrow hope to the NBA coming back.
But here's the other thing, guys. This is buying on the low end here. The NBA is suffering a huge downturn in viewership. Major League Baseball's taken over as the second biggest sport in North America.
Baseball just had its biggest television audience in 34 years.
So if you can ever afford something that you previously couldn't afford, it might be right now in terms of NBA franchises here, Rob.
I've never heard someone talk about billions of dollars in such a
deal. Such a deal.
Terms.
It's like they're thrifting at this point. They are. If they get the Grizzlies, they are thrifting.
Not to do it.
Yeah. No, I know. And the Aquilines did kick tires on the Pelicans once upon a time.
That's right.
I believe the price tag at the time was like $350 million, and they balked. So they're not the droids you're looking for. But if, in fact, they fail to find a guy to buy out Paolo and it becomes a situation where they are on the block, the Canucks Sports Entertainment is on the block, I do wonder whether that opens a narrow channel. Okay, I've got to ask you about the Canucks here. Rob, 7-7 going into tonight's game with the Blackhawks. Glass half full, glass half empty.
Glass half empty, I think. I'm just not that excited about this team. I think that, like, when you look, they've had injuries, so I think we have to, that's the caveat in all of this. Let's see them at full health. Elias Pettersson's been a little bit better. We're not seeing the magic from him, though. He doesn't have the killer instinct when he has the puck. He oftentimes, he made the play on the OT goal to Besser, and what a good play. And he's being a good two-way player for them, and he's being a playmaker. I want to see him have more of that killer instinct with the puck. I want to see him be the goal scorer and not rely on others and not just defer. I'm seeing too much of that still. And for this team to go far, particularly with Hedl out long term, we need to see Pettersson be a star, not a good player, not their third leading scorer. He needs to lead the way. So we need to see more from Pettersson. Hughes hasn't been his usual self, like his unbelievably high standard. I do believe that that's going to come back. So I think that that's something that you can hang your hat on, is that, okay, they're doing this right now, having missed Hughes for some games. And when he's been in the lineup, he hasn't been at, full level Quinn Hughes. So you can say that. But yeah, there's just a few things missing for me. I think Evander Kane has had an underwhelming start to his tenure with the Canucks as well. You've got Thatcher Demko playing at the top of his game, so there's that. But yeah, I'm sort of checking off the things off the list of the things that we were saying. Okay, this needs to go right. This needs to go right. This needs to go right. We're some of the things have gone right, but clearly up the middle at center ice, it hasn't gone. It hasn't been best case scenario thus far.
Lastly, Rob, our Redwoods golf course poll question today: will Connor Bedard come home one day and be a Vancouver Canuck?
Save us, Connor Bedard. We need you. That would be great. Maybe. Okay, I'm not. Yes.
Maybe he's not an option.
Canucks,
there we go.
He was a huge Canucks fan. Like, not just like one of these guys that was kind of a Canucks fan. Like, we've seen in interviews, before he was drafted, like, it's quite obvious that he was a Canucks super fan. My only hesitation is that we just see superstars so rarely move in the NHL. They just seem to want to sign that big long-term contract. They so rarely make it to free agency. So he'd have to buck the trend in order to do that. But yeah, if he ever gets the chance, if he ever decides to leave as a free agent, I think Vancouver would be at the top of his list.
Superstars don't leave teams right now, but just wait till Connor McDavid abandons Edmonton in a couple of years. That'll open the floodgates.
Exodus.
That will open the floodgates, Rob Williams.
You think he'll make it in Vogue, maybe?
Absolutely. Yes. Great stuff, Rob. Fun conversation this week. Appreciate the time. Until next week.
Thank you.
Harrison Price from the historic Wall Center and the Pacific Toyota Dealer Studio, built by Arborlee. We had Arborlee in yesterday fixing a few things about this desk, and you'll see it here next week after.
Some changes, yeah.
Game night, make it a game weekend. Turn that ticket into a downtown getaway with a special Harrison Price rate here at the Wall. Call 604-331-1000. Tell them we sent you. Some blackout dates apply based on availability. Midfielder Sebastian Berhalter and center back Tristan Blackman named to the MLS's best 11 today. Yohei Takaoka fell just short. That was previewed when Dane St. Clair, the Canadian, won MLS goalkeeper of the year. Meanwhile, off the pitch, MLS Commissioner Don Garber is in town today. The Soccer Don, as he is called, tells the Canadian press, quote, "It's to help make sure that success is sustainable long term, ... The club isn't sustainable in a situation where they're ... in a building which they have no control over. They have minimal participation with revenue. The biggest issue is the lack of schedule flexibility." We had also heard Axel Schuster, Whitecaps sporting director, recently talk about how little food and beverage revenues they get out of BC Place, that they are a top 5 or top 10 team in attendance, and yet right there at the bottom when it came to food and bev revenue. The lease with BC Place expires after this year. Now, all parties understand there is no other options here. The Whitecaps have to be at BC Place next year. Axel has said that. BC Place is aware of that. This is about the longer term beyond next year.
Way beyond next year, 4 or 5 years from now, basically. I mean, it takes a long time to build a stadium, all that sort of stuff. So
but I mean, you may know better than me, but would they not be going year to year on a lease from this point forward? Like, would that not be?
Yeah.
Because if you're the ownership group, like, you don't want to lock in here.
No, I mean, again,
and
you
it's
could,
not
you
like
could sign a
BC
short-term
Place is
deal.
in a position leverage-wise to say, no, you have to lock in for a number.
Or else
or else
you don't get dates.
Yeah.
Don Garber's having a media roundtable on Friday, which isn't great for us because we're not back on until Monday, but I'll have a chat with him. And
he will also be speaking with business leaders and public officials during the trip. Look, I don't doubt that Garber can help with the Whitecaps, exert pressure on BC Place and politicians, and maybe get to a better deal for the Whitecaps at BC Place. When it comes to business leaders and drumming up sponsorship, we've had one interaction with Don Garber. It was not a positive one. My view, he's an obnoxious New Yorker, much like Gary Bettman, and I sure hope that he understands this market, understands how to approach these business leaders. Because if he walks in here thinking, I'm the big shot enchilada of soccer in North America, and I'm going to say a thing or two to these, wrong approach, Don. Sincere, genuine, we tamp down the angry New Yorker thing. Caps are north of 42,000 sold for the Western Conference semifinal match versus LAFC on the 22nd.
That's the best case that Vancouver's got here with the commissioner. Like, if for anybody worried about relocation, like, he's coming into town and he knows that with 2 weeks still to go, 2.5 weeks they're at 42,000. That is not a market that they immediately want to leave.
Well, and 42. I mean, capacity hard. Joe Hall tweeted this yesterday, that with the renos and the tarping that's going on at BC Place, if you haven't been at BC Place in a while,
there's stuff going on.
In fact, I actually think being in there for the Lions game on Saturday, Blake, the renos and the way they have the old press box boxed off, it creates like an intimacy in those three sections because there's fewer seats that, elongate up the state. Yeah, exactly. So capacity's about 52, 53,000. Like, it's going to be another one of the single biggest MLS crowds all year.
Yep.
Right? Along with the Messi game here in Vancouver. And then there's this bombshell from MLS insider Tom Bogert. LAFC assistant coach Mark Dos Santos, remember him, is the front runner to be named the next head coach of LAFC. Their current coach,
Steve Trundle,
is leaving this winter.
Yeah. His family, he's married to a European gal. She wants to go back to Germany, I believe. And so they are picking up and moving. And I'll believe this when I see it. Not because I don't think Mark Dos Santos can do a good job, but we had a great relationship with Mark.
He's been there 5 years. Wonderful man.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed all my interactions with Mark.
And I think he's a good coach, too. If he's in 28 other markets in MLS, I would believe this report. You're telling me the team that just bucked up for Sun, that has Hugo Lloris, that has brought in all the other European stars
Legendary keeper, right? Like
Yeah.
on the short list of the best all time.
It's Chiellini. Like, you're going with Mark Dos Santos. And again, that is not to degrade Mark Dos Santos in any way.
He's a soccer lifer.
But you've got the ability and the budget, because there's no cap on coaches, you can go get anyone on the globe. Why are you limiting yourself to an MLS lifer?
He was 22 wins, 37 losses, 18 draws in 3.5 years with the Whitecaps. How about the Vancouver Rise?
Before you leave, we should also give a shout out to Vanni Sartini. Just missed the job in New England.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Ah.
Sounded like he was the silver or bronze medalist for the Revs.
You been talking to him?
No, it was a report out there.
Okay.
I didn't bother sending him a text,
Right.
but yeah.
We got to get to dinner with him again. Believe it or not, Vanny is great. He's a great dinner companion.
I think people would believe that, yes.
The Vancouver Rise beat Ottawa 2-1 before 3,500 at Swangard last night, the first leg of their 2-leg Northern Super League semifinal. The return match is Saturday in our nation's capital. The winner takes on the winner of the Toronto-Montreal semi. Alas, that is the last game at Swangard and the last home match for the Rise in their inaugural season.
It was on TSN. I watched the whole game.
Good crowd, great atmosphere, game nationally televised. Bunch of Lions showed up.
If you didn't watch the game, you'd think, okay, good. They won the first half 2-1. It should have been 3 or 4-0. That should have been the final game. The one goal came on a counter for Ottawa, and the Rise dominated the first half and only got 2 goals out of it. It should have been 4-0 at the break, and it's a two-legged thing. So now they go back to Ottawa. Is that going to be enough to carry the day? We'll see.
Thomas Muller and a bunch of the Whitecaps showed up as well. In fact, Muller had ceremonial coin flip duties pre-match.
And he kind of screwed it up. This coin quickly fell off his hand, and he said, "It was blue," because it was a red or blue option. And both sides agreed, yeah, it was blue. But
it's a stylish flip, though.
It was he was a little too nonchalant about the landing spot, that's all.
And one last soccer note. We mentioned this when the reports first surfaced a few weeks ago. The Canadian men's national team is adding a player.
Yeah.
Alfie Jones. He's a center back with Middlesbrough. That's the
championship.
But a good championship side.
Yep.
A championship side that is on its way to promotion to the EPL. He is eligible to play for Canada because his grandparent on his mother's side is Canadian. He is going to be named to the team squad later this week, according to TSN's Matthew Shinetti.
And on the same day that report comes out, he got a red card yesterday.
Did he really?
Yes.
But we've talked about how the Caps are thin depth-wise at center back. That is something that they share with Jesse Marsh and the Canadian national team.
Yeah.
Jesse is looking to improve that spot on his team.
Yeah, well, if everybody was absolutely healthy and you knew they were going to be healthy, Canada's fine. They just don't have injury depth, and the center backs have been very fragile. Moses Bombito cannot stay healthy. He's got a broken leg right now. I don't know that they're worried about the quality of the starters, but they cannot afford to have injuries, and that's what Alfie Jones is providing.
Who's the Whitecap that might be naturalized? Canadian? Was there not talk about one
Blackman,
of
but he's already been capped now with the U.S.
Oh, okay.
That
So
dream
that's
is dead, yes.
Tristan. Yeah. 5 BC Lions named to the All-CFL team. Quarterback Nathan Rourke, wide receiver Keon Hatcher, wide receiver Justin McInnes, left tackle Jarrell Broxton, and defensive end Mechia Betts. Lions had 6 players limited on day 1 of practice yesterday, although that is kind to offensive tackle Dejon Allen, who apparently didn't do much and is unlikely to play. Running back James Butler is nicked, so early in the practice week, just hold him out. McInnes was listed as limited. Defensive backs Gary Peters, TJ Lee, but they're all expected to go.
Some of those guys, Butler included, was at that Vancouver Rise match, by the way. They were out socializing with the Whitecaps. It's pretty funny.
I saw Farhan's report on TSN last night, and believe it or not, I mean, you put 4 of the 12 players on the all-CFL offensive team, and yet I think you make an argument the BC Lions offense needs to step up here this week. They had just 180 yards passing before Nathan Rourke threw those 2 long completions on the final drive.
I couldn't believe that graphic came up, and I was like, 187, 188, what?
It was only 298 yards net offense for BC against the Stamps. The Stamps had brought back 3 defensive starters and looked pretty good on that side of the ball. It was just 38 yards rushing against these Rough Riders 2 weeks ago in the regular season finale, and as Farhan notes, they didn't really start consistently moving the ball until Saskatchewan started substituting guys off.
But that was a weird game because I think Lions maybe let down a bit, knowing that the Riders would be fully letting down because they had nothing to play for. That was a weird
game for sure.
Yeah.
Riders list 17 players on their injury report. 3 of them are designated as load management, so they'll play. 1,000-yard receiver Dante Myers practiced yesterday. 1,000-yard receiver Keyshawn Johnson did not. Defensive end Shane Ray, and he's a former first-round NFL pick, 23rd overall by the Denver Broncos. You don't get a lot of those guys in the CFL. He did not practice. Halfback Roland Milligan, the reigning CFL most outstanding defensive player, he did practice. He's missed the last 3 games. This from Matt Baker of Lions PR. Lions and Riders have met in 4 West Finals all time. All of them were in BC, except in 1963 where they played a best of 3. You can believe a best of 3?
What is this, Major League Soccer?
Oh, my God. The amount of football games at the end. Well, we played a best of 3 final, then we played a 2-leg Grey Cup. So we played 6 playoff games.
Was 2008, which one was the Duncan O'Mahony? Was that 2007
the
final?
Saskatchewan Rough Riders won the West Final at BC Place in 2007. It is the only Rider win against BC in this game.
Was Duncan O'Mahony with the Riders at that point? No, he kicked a game-winning field goal for the Lions over the Riders. What year was that? 06?
That was... Well, O'Mahony was the kicker in No.
Arizona missions for tomorrow.
Okay, yeah. Let me just think this one out. Well, McCallum missed that field goal for the Riders against BC, that chip shot in 04, I want to say, because that's when BC...
06. I think in 06. Okay. They beat the Riders in 06, yes.
But that was semi or final?
That was final.
Okay.
And then the next year was the Riders over the Lions. Back-to-back years.
Right.
Wow, fun.
Right. The last playoff win for BC in Regina was 2008, the West semifinal. Buck Pierce was the star that day at quarterback, and that remains the last road playoff win for BC, and they have taken some shellackings
the crossover,
on the road.
But those crossover ones.
Talk to me about that Hamilton crossover. Oh, my
Montreal, God. Terrible. Yeah.
I don't understand what they see in that backup quarterback. He's a bad athlete. He can't even run the sneak, Blake.
Careful.
Blake, the forecast for Regina on Saturday.
Give it to me.
Calls for a high of -6, a low of -15. There's a good chance, in fact, 100% chance by the Weather Channel, of overnight snow Friday, so might be a nice, pretty dusting around the field come kickoff.
Wow.
And as always, there will be winds in the flatland, expected at 20 to 30 kilometers per hour. Riders already have 30,000 tickets sold for Mosaic Saturday. Capacity about 34,000 there. And the CFL announcing today that the Grey Cup in Winnipeg, a week from Sunday, is sold out. They put 36,000 plus in Princess Auto Stadium the last time it hosted a Grey Cup 10 years ago. Huge news for the Blue Jays as starting pitcher Shane Bieber opts into his contract for 2026. He had a player option. He'll make $16 million, but here's the thing. He could have declined that option, collected $4 million. There was a $4 million buyout on it either way, become a free agent where he likely would have earned a multi-year deal. Baseball America thought he could get a 5-year deal, Blake.
Yeah.
He turned it down. Like, he could have had $100 million plus on the next deal. He turned it down to come back and pitch for effectively $12 million for the Blue Jays this year. But getting close to a championship, plus that clubhouse that none of the players or their wives wanted to quit, seems to have been a deciding factor here. Kara Bieber, his better half, on social media last night, saying her and her husband would be, quote, giddy after games and often talked about how lucky they were to be around the other players and their wives. That was the second Blue Jays wag to post on social media yesterday about the experience with the Blue Jays.
Free agent wags too.
Erica May Scherzer with a lengthy missive saying none of Max's 18 seasons in the bigs impacted their families' lives quite like this last one. Scherzer also a free agent. And really, Blake, now, when you look at it, Bieber, Savage, Gosman, Barrios, of course, who didn't pitch in the playoffs but is still under contract and is a workhorse.
I want them to get Bassett back too.
You bring Bassett or Scherzer, one of those guys, you're pretty good there.
Yep.
Now, Bo Bichette's a free agent. Sir Anthony Dominguez is a free agent, so I think you do want another high-leverage reliever, and you're either looking at Bo or another bat. But the shopping got a lot easier for Ross Atkins and Mark Shapiro this offseason with this decision.
They just made like $10 million potentially versus like resetting them at market value.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is the estimates is that Rogers made somewhere in the between $100 and $150 million because of this playoff run.
Yeah.
And to their credit, the Blue Jays finished 5th, I think, at the end of the season in payroll. They're investing in the product now, and good on them.
Yeah.
And there's still baseball being played. The Arizona Fall League for top prospects and rehabbing players, where a couple of Vancouver Canadians are showing out. Infielder Cutter Coffey, we love his name, and he had a very strong finish to the season. He's hitting .298 down there. And catcher Edward Duran also doing pretty well. He's got 3 triples for a catcher in a Fall League. Good for you. As expected, Mariners exercised their first of 3 straight club options on closer Andres Munoz, declined their option on catcher Mitch Garver, who becomes a free agent. Top prospect Harry Ford, he's going to back up Cal Raleigh next season. He might even be advanced enough to allow Raleigh to play more games at DH and save those knees. Munoz has 2 more club options after this, so, I mean, $7 million, he's a steal for a closer of that order. Mariners, of course, with a couple of big free agents, the 2 guys they added at the deadline, Josh Naylor, Eugenio Suarez. They are expected to prioritize Naylor, although he's been on social media talking in the past tense about his time in Seattle. Which results of the
one more soccer note, because I mentioned this to you off air. I was lamenting that Canada was about to start the U17 World Cup with a loss to Uganda. They scored 2 goals in the final 2 minutes. They won it 2-1.
Oh, wow.
Congrats, boys.
Cardiac Canucks.
Yeah.
Redwoods Golf Course poll question is Tom Willander,
Willander.
Here to stay, yes or no, people said.
They said no.
They said yes.
Did they?
70%.
It's going with the play.
Ivy, Tom Willander deserves to stay in the NHL. He ain't going back to Abbey. Matt, once Forbert is back, he's back in Abbey. There also seemed to be some confusion that he's the only guy who doesn't require waivers to go to Abbey. No, we covered this on the show yesterday. Defenseman Elias Pettersson, Victor Mancini can also be sent to Abbotsford without having to pass through waivers. So you don't have to worry about any of the 3 of them right now in terms of losing the asset.
May the best man win.
Yep. Errors and omissions from yesterday's program and beyond. Somebody mentioned to me that the Canucks not wishing the Whitecaps and the Lions well in their playoff games Saturday may be a matter of social media policy, that they only do that for clubs who are in championship finals, that they did so with the Whitecaps at the CONCACAF Champions League final earlier this season. Fair enough.
Weird policy, if that's a policy.
Well, it just read the community, read the room.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you had your two neighbors in very big games on Saturday.
Goodwill's goodwill.
Doesn't
you
take
shouldn't need a
much.
policy. We only give goodwill if. No, just give goodwill. How about that?
Yeah. I mean, everybody was talking about it last week. It was a gigantic weekend in BC sports. You knew full well your game was up against the Lions and the Whitecaps as well, or overlapping, if you will.
Yeah.
But anyways, thanks for joining us, everybody. Appreciate you spending some time connecting with the program. Please do subscribe to all our assorted channels, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Follow on social, X, Insta, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Blue Sky Live on many of those platforms, noon Pacific time weekdays. And, of course, support the community sponsors you hear us talking about and keep it local.